It's go time for the Detroit Lions off of an idle week last week, the home field throughout the playoffs. They are a 9.5 point favorite over the Washington Commanders, fresh off the upset win in Tampa. And this is our Super 6 game of the week presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll have the column coming out later in the week. And one of the questions, obviously easy, what will the outcome of this game be? Lions to win by 10 or more, or the Commanders to get the cover or the outright win? Again, I actually see a path. Like if you're looking at the two big favorites, I see a path here for the Commanders to win much more than I do Detroit, because I think in a game like this, you're looking at a pretty high variance game. You're looking at two coaches and two offenses that love to go for it. So, like, I don't think you're going to see a lot of punts. I don't think you're going to see, one of the props I actually wrote up in the column was the longest field goal in the game to be under 46.5 yards. Because if you get in that area between like the 35 and the 45-yard, like they're going to go for it. They're 4th and 4, they're going. They're not kicking a 53, 54-yard field goal. So that was one prop that I looked at in playing this game. So I don't know if it means that we're going to get an over, but I would not expect to see a lot of the special teams on the field in this game, which I think by virtue of that, those leverage plays, it gives the underdog a much better chance to win this game. Will you see any reason at all to maybe just a little trickle of money line on the Commanders here? Because I mean, even look last week in Tampa didn't force a single punt.
I do not. I think Detroit might score basically every time they touch the ball. It's just that's a bad place to go when you don't have a good run defense. That's a loud building. They're so good on offense. Campbell's teams are never flat. That building won't let you be flat. I just think this happens. There's pretty much one or two every year where we see the team on wild card weekend win. It's a standalone game. They win. There's some sentiment for that team. Oh, they're getting points the next week. People forget there's a reason the team they're playing is home and off and all of this stuff. There's a reason they're the 1 seed. I just think, like, I'm not dying to lay the 8.5, 9.5 with Detroit or whatever it is, and you could shop around some of these. I think it's with the teaser protection bumping up to the 9.5. I could see a scenario where it's 14-point game late, 17-point game late, and Daniels has the ball. And hey, if you're only up 14, he might get in the back door. If you're up 17, you're good because he could be a good backdoor quarterback with his ability to run. And Detroit's got a shaky defense. Under 5.5 punts, I think is good. I think Detroit gets well into the 30s here. If anything, I'd lay it here with the Lions.
Will, before you get going, to echo on what Will was saying, if you go back over the last 10 years in the playoff, underdog winners in the wild card round, 2-15 straight up on the field against the individual opponents. So like, that proves a point. Like maybe it's 7-10 against the number, so it's a little more 50-50. But very rarely do you see these underdog winners in the wild card round go on the road and do it again.
I still think Washington can score, though. And that leaned me into a play on the Commanders team total over 22.5. A little juicy, -15. Not the end of the world. Some offshore shops, are already 23.5. Cannot talk. 23.5 at a couple places offshore. Dan Quinn's turned into an aggressive fourth down offensive coach. I mean, they went for it on fourth down 23 times this year, and they converted 20 of them, 20 out of 23 on fourth down. That's regular season. They set the tone against Tampa. They go for it on 4th and short right out of the gate. Didn't get it, but eventually got 2 more 4th and shorts, which is why they won the game. So look, man, could Detroit win this game by 20? Yeah, but I'm hoping it's 47-27 or 51-31 or something like that. And if Detroit scores, Geoff, Washington's going to score. Like, scoring for Detroit is good for Washington to score. I don't want 24-10. I want a shootout.
Yeah, I lean toward a shootout, but I will say, though, if the fourth down monster strikes and you're 1 for 5 on fourth down, this game goes under, right? Like, that's the only thing about the total. Like, both teams go for it on a fourth down. Yeah. If it's a horrendous fourth down day, points are not going to be scored. I wrote about 2 props in my article this week up on Fox Sports, same as Bear, Will, Sammy. We all contribute there. I like Jaden Daniels' 2 over props. I like his over pass attempts, which is 34.5. It's a high number, but to the point all 4 of us are making, he has to pass the football in this game for them to keep up. And if they're behind in the game, he passes the ball even more. I don't need complete. I need pass attempts. It's a high number. It's a bar that's going to be high. And then over 9.5 rush attempts. Sort of the same idea where you got to use his legs. And fourth down, Sammy mentioned it, right? They go for it on a fourth down a lot. A lot of those is Jay Daniels using his legs. And so I think it just has to be Jay Daniels' game. And whether it's pass or run, I mean, he's going to have to account for a large majority of how they get their yards. So I like those two Daniels props.
Yeah, certainly Daniels certainly uses his leg. A lot of Lamar Jackson uses his leg, but mostly we talk about the quarterbacks using their arms, and that takes us to another Super Six question that is out there this week, sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. Which quarterback in the divisional round is going to throw for the most passing yards? And you got 4 options: Jared Goff, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Matthew Stafford. I think the answer is obvious there. It's got to be Jared Goff, right?
For which one?
Most passing yards in the divisional round by a quarter. Goff indoors, Mahomes outside against the Texans, Lamar Jackson in Buffalo on Sunday, and then Matthew Stafford.
What if they're up big in the second half and just run the football? That's more the concern.
Yeah, and maybe you think the Rams fall way behind and Stafford just, has to play catch up and ends up throwing it 42, 43 times, and you get the volume that way. So that's a tricky handicap.
But Goff though could get a lot of yards on screen passes too, which are very cheap yards, which they do better than a lot of teams. So I wouldn't mind Goff there. Do we think David Montgomery plays? Maybe, but I if I were the Lions, I'd save him. I would too. I wouldn't play him. I mean, you can't. It's a playoff game, so you really can't say that in my opinion. But you can think that in your head, and like maybe he's active but doesn't play very much, and just sort of there, like we get him a couple reps. But I don't think we see a full Montgomery workload. I mean, Gibbs is so good by himself. They don't need a number 2. It's great to have a 1-2 monster, but they don't need that. Gibbs himself is plenty good enough.
Sammy, have you noticed? I haven't looked at the props in this game for Gibbs. Are they off? Are they maybe factoring in that Montgomery may play and there might be a little bit of value on some of these Gibbs props? Again, I haven't looked, so I'm just throwing it out there to maybe one of you guys who may have.
So the market at least is telling us that Montgomery is likelier to play than maybe we thought, because there was a number on Gibbs, I think Tuesday, -$4 to score a touchdown, which I laughed at. Pretty funny. -400.
Sure, why not?
Game. But that's now down to -350. It's down. Some books have 250. DraftKings has 235. So that would tell me that somebody came in and bet some Montgomery, which would lower the price. The problem with a lot of these prices, guys, as you know, most of these books don't give you the no.
Right.
You could never deal -$4 yes if you don't, or you could never deal that if you gave the no, because people would just bet the no. But it has come down substantially from -$4 to -350 to some pops in the $2 range. Yeah, I love this Geoff. That's what I'm calling it. It's a Geoff between Quinn and Campbell. I love it.
Boneless wings, all you can eat. But again, to Jeff's point earlier about like the receiving yards, like I wonder if maybe like there is a rushing and receiving yard combined prop for Gibbs that maybe took a little bit of a hit, and if he's going to play more, then that might be
that number's got to be tremendously high.
It's got to be tremendously high.
114.5.
Yeah, I was going to guess 125. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Over easy. 114.5 to 125. That's a no sweat easy winner.
Oh yeah. Odd subject to change though, as usual.
Always odd subject to change. Bear Bets full episodes drop twice a week right here on the Bear Bets YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to stay ahead of the odds, and let's celebrate all of our wins together.